Hey guys, welcome to Penn State Wilkes-Barre's virtual academic session regarding rehabilitation and human services. My name is Leslie. I'm one of the admissions counselors for Penn State Wilkes-Barre, and I'm here to talk to you briefly about some next steps to enrollment. First of all, congratulations and welcome to the Penn State family. We have 4 steps that you guys need to complete or little reminders to take care of over the next few weeks. The first one is to attend a virtual academic breakout session like you are now. Where we had some yesterday, we have some today, and then we also have other sessions tomorrow. So check out our website to register for these academic breakout sessions. During the session, you'll be able to interact with Penn State faculty and learn more about your academic program. Secondly, you want to respond to your offer of admission. The universal deadline for acceptance is May 1st, but due to the coronavirus, we are extending that to June 1st if needed. So all you have to do is log on to your My Penn State account and request an extension. If you know you want to come to Penn State in the fall, then you can simply submit your non-refundable deposit to let us know that and also the phone number.
Leslie, you cut out for a little bit. Could you repeat the last 2 lines? You cut out.
Okay, sorry about that. So for the housing, okay, so for housing, if you need housing, we do have housing adjacent to campus, the Nittany Commons. The website is up there and also the phone number. And hopefully once we're able to get back on campus, you can come check those out if you would like to. The other option, if you need housing, is to contact a private landlord in the area. We do have a list on our website for landlords that work with our students. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact the admissions office, 570-675-9238, or via email. Also, if you have any questions throughout today's presentation, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll be able to answer those questions for you. Today we have Melissa Littleton with us, and she is the department head for the Bachelor of Science degree in Rehabilitation Human Services, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about the program and what it has to offer. Melissa?
Thank you. So then will I be able, there we go, to share my screen? Let me see here. Sorry, just trying to get this. Go.
Take your time.
That should work. All right.
There we go.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, hello. I am Melissa Littleton. As she said, I'm the program coordinator for the Rehabilitation and Human Services program at Penn State Wilkes-Barre. So we're just going to get into a brief overview of, what that program is all about. Oops, sorry. Let me do that. Okay. So what is the RHS program? So the main thing to know about the program is, we really set people up for helping others. And a lot of times our students, they don't know exactly what they want to do. They just know they want to help others. They're not really sure maybe all the different ways they can do that, but they just know they want to have a career that's helping others. And that's what Rehabilitation and Human Services is all about. So there's different ways of doing that. We can work on, work with people in the community on skill development. Sometimes that's about coping skills, right? Dealing with, crises or mental illness, problem solving skills, being more successful in, their jobs or at home, being able to, do independent living, right? Doing the things around their house that they need to, or maybe it has to do with something for their job. Maybe they need to get a new job for a bunch of different reasons, so we can work on skill development for that. Another aspect of it is advocacy. So we kind of stick up for people who are vulnerable populations, as we call them, or maybe population that people are discriminated against. So vulnerable populations would be like kids or the elderly, or maybe people with significant disabilities. We advocate for them. We want to make sure that they're being treated properly, that they have, all the resources they need to live a healthy life. So that's another aspect of helping. And we look at physical as well as psychological well-being. We don't focus a lot on physical interventions because that's not what our program does. It doesn't set you up for those physical interventions with the curriculum, but we look at it from a holistic point of view of wellness. That means we want to look at the big picture. So we want to promote nutrition, exercise, making sure people are getting outside, and that contributes to their psychological well-being, which is really what we focus more so on in RHS. And the other piece to this is working with people with disabilities, and that can mean any type of disability. So physical, psychological, or neurodevelopmental. So again, the physical aspect, some students do go on to PT or OT from this, but the curriculum itself doesn't set you up to do any of that physical stuff. So you would actually have to fill your electives and your science classes with the right courses to be able to go on to PT or OT, because we look at another aspect of working with people with disabilities. But people with physical disabilities usually went through something traumatic to get that disability. Maybe it was an accident, an injury at work. Maybe it was a natural disaster and they've developed a disability through something like that. And, some of the psychological issues that come along with that, and maybe some of the social issues that come along with that, how do they adapt to their new life in, how society kind of treats them. And that's that psychological aspect. So we, anybody with a mental illness, RHS, sets the stage for you to work with them. So depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, the whole spectrum. And then neurodevelopmental disabilities, that might be something new term to you, but that's something like an intellectual disability. We used to call this mental retardation. We don't call it that anymore. It's now called an intellectual disability. A lot of you are familiar with autism, right? So we call those autism spectrum disorders. Those are examples of neurodevelopmental disorders. So you can work with those populations as well if you major in RHS. And then, like I said, the psychosocial aspect, so that means psychological wellness as well as those social issues, which I kind of talked about a little bit in the other points. The psychological wellness is all about mental health. And we want to make sure that we're promoting, people's mental health, and that they have the services and the care that they need. But sometimes that also means like we have to advocate for laws being passed. We need more funding for those. And those social issues also mean, going back up to advocacy, we need to fight for their rights. We need to give people a voice who, don't have one for many different reasons. And, sometimes people aren't very nice to someone with a disability, the way that they're treated, the way that they're looked at, some of the assumptions that they make about the person that they are or what they can do, they're just inaccurate, they're not right. So that's part of our advocacy. We, with those social issues, we want to make sure that people aren't discriminated against, that there's no, stigma against people with disabilities, and that they can live a full, successful, healthy life, just the same as anybody else, because they deserve that. And then usually the next question I get is, what can I do with a degree in RHS? So there's different settings you can work in, different populations. Sometimes you're going to need a master's degree to be able to work in certain settings or to work with certain populations, but there are so many entry-level positions that you can get, especially if you're going to stay in our area. We're starting to recognize that mental health is very important, and more resources are being put into these services. So I worked in the school system my whole career. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I specialize in working with children and adolescents. I worked in private and public schools. So you can work in a school setting. There's community mental health organizations like Children's Service Center. A lot of our interns go there. Group homes, that could be for adults or it could be for children. We have someone who's working in a nursing home now. She absolutely loves it. She was actually offered a director's position at a nursing home after she graduated, which she took. She was very excited about that. Drug and alcohol treatment, that's a big one. Most people are very interested in this, especially with the opioid crisis going on in our society. So we can also help people with their jobs. That's what vocational rehabilitation is finding them a job that fits their needs and their skill sets. If you want to work with people who have experienced domestic violence, or maybe you want to get into the criminal justice system, anything like that, that's fair game for a degree in RHS. And those populations, you can, see that it covers a wide variety. So our program was pretty broad to set you up to be able to work in all these career settings with all these populations. Dependent adults just means that they're an adult, but they're dependent on somebody else for care because of an intellectual or developmental disability. So they're not really able to take care of themselves. They're dependent on somebody else to care for them. So students' success. So this is specifically the students that I've had in the program over the last few years. So the program's been at our campus for 6 years, so it's growing, it's getting bigger. It's doing very well. And this is exactly what my students have done. So if you're wondering, what can I do or where can I go? And the list isn't limited to this because there's so many more opportunities out there. This just happens to be where my students have gone. So Children's Service Center, their main office is in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, but they have branch in Tunkhannock as well. And they're all over northeastern Pennsylvania. They have quite a few programs, and the list keeps growing. And those are just some of the programs that our students have gone to. One is a psychiatric facility, a part-time psychiatric facility. If you've ever heard of a TSS worker, that's what the BHRS program is, and that's kind of like what the SBBH program is, if you've ever heard of a TSS worker. And then there's also, non-clinical kind of jobs where case management, where you help people find resources in the community. So you're not really working directly with treating any kind of mental illness. It's more so how to get them resources so that they can manage their mental illness. I've had someone go to the Shine after school program that's actually run by Wilkes University, but works with local public schools. Step by Step, if you've heard of that, that's also in Wilkes-Barre. They have vocational programs. They help dependent adults find jobs with their skill set. And I'm not going to go through each of these one by one. Reclaim 611 is something that's in Texas. I had an intern go to Texas, and that is actually an organization that helps to try to stop human trafficking. So it's pretty intense. And she went down there and she absolutely loved her time, and she's continuing on to graduate school down there. Bright Horizons is a daycare center. Mid-Atlantic Youth Services is a juvenile delinquency facility. And New Story is an academic placement for children with emotional and behavioral disorders. So, and we have had 2 interns go to Pivot Physical Therapy. However, like I said, you really have to kind of know from the beginning that you want to go to PT or OT, so that you can make sure you take all the required courses that you need to even be accepted into graduate school, because our curriculum focuses more on the psychological and social aspects, not necessarily. Okay, sorry, let's say I'm approving that. So not necessarily the biological classes that you would need. They're not really built into our curriculum, but they are available. So where have our students gone? So they've gone to graduate school at Marywood, University of Scranton. I've had a student go to get accepted into Westchester and Drexel. And then this was the student I was referring to before at Reclaim 611. She's going to a university down in Texas. And if we look at the statistics, they're actually really good. So again, the numbers are kind of low because, like I said, the program's relatively new, but we keep growing. And employment is actually 100% for the students who wanted employment. They were either offered a job or applied right after graduation, and 15 out of the 19 either were offered or applied, and they got hired, which is great. And if you see the alternative options right there, those were the issues of the other 4. I actually had 2 students who they went to play basketball overseas. So they didn't want a job, here in NEPA or anything like that. They wanted to go play basketball. So that's another, another thing that we offer, the sports that you can get involved in. One student did take time off. He was actually offered a job, but he declined it because he wanted to just take some time off and really think about what he wanted to do. He was considering graduate school, stuff like that. And then another student, she there wasn't an open position where she did her internship, so they couldn't offer her a job, and she actually wanted to devote all her time and effort into being a graduate student, so she didn't actually apply for anything else. And all 7 of our students who actually applied to graduate school, every single one of them got in, and they got into the programs and the schools that they wanted, which just so happened to be, they're staying mostly in this area, but they all got in. So, you know, they had the skills and the background to be able to ace the interview. And, you know, lastly, just kind of to sum it up, so, you know, you guys probably have a lot of options. And so I talked about what the RHS program has to offer, what you can do with it. And so I'm like, yeah, that's great, but what about Penn State Wilkes-Barre? Is that really the place for me? First, I love the small class sizes. I love being able to actually know all of my students, and I know their stories, and I can spend more time with them. If I had 500, you know, students in a classroom, I'd never get to know them. And that's just and that's just not my preference. That might be something that doesn't appeal to you, but I like being able to make connections with my students, and you're going to be able to build those relationships with your teachers and get that individualized care and attention that can really help you be successful. We do have a beautiful campus. I hope you guys are able to come out soon to see it if you haven't. We might have a virtual tour available, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to ask Leslie. But it is beautiful, very serene, very, and we have a very close-knit community. Like I said, because we're a smaller campus, you really get to know everybody, and it's nice to be, you know, walking around and have all these familiar faces, and you know who everybody is, and you know where to go for help. But at the same time, we have the resources of a Big Ten university. So we have the resources that University Park has to offer, but we have the luxury of having a small class size, individualized care and attention. So it's kind of the best of both worlds if you think of it. And we have a variety of options. So even if you decide to change your major or change campuses, not a lot of other schools can offer you 20 different branch campuses or University Park. So that's also something to consider too, especially if you're like, you know, maybe I want to explore other things in the future. And then becoming a Penn State alumni, I know this kind of seems silly. Myself, I'm not a Penn State alumni, but it's a thing. It means a lot when you're able to say, you know, you went to Penn State and you graduated from there. People just light up if they, you know, attended Penn State too, and it's an instant connection. And people are around the world who have gone to Penn State. So it's, you know, there's a lot that we have to offer. You know, like I said, a lot of resources, but also that care and attention. And it's a beautiful campus. And like I said, you get to say that, you know, you're a Penn State alumni, which is pretty cool. And I'm not sure if we have any questions about what I went over. Don't know.
It doesn't look like there's any questions in there, Melissa.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
So my contact information is there if anybody wants to reach out. Of course, you know, I'm not at the office right now, so calling my office phone, I didn't put that up there, but you can email me. I'm pretty good with my email, getting back to you about that. If any questions or concerns, and even if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one Zoom meeting with me, that's fine too, and I can answer all your questions kind of face-to-face.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times for any of the students out there who may watch this, if they're still kind of undecided or like you said, if they're not really sure, they kind of discover this program once they come to our campus, which is good.
Yeah, and like I said, if you have a lot of questions and you don't want to type them all out, or you're not really sure, you know, how you need to ask it, it might be easier to just connect with me via Zoom, so, you know, we can have that conversation back and forth, and hopefully, you know, over the summer, maybe, you know, we'll be able to get together. That's always hopefully a possibility. I can, you know, have you come to campus for a visit and sit with me face to face if, you know, we're allowed to do that. So.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Melissa.
No problem.
Again, guys, thanks for joining us today. You'll see there's also Brian. Brian, you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. You know, we're excited to have you guys all on campus in the fall. If you do want to attend any of the other academic sessions, please sign up for them. we have a bunch this week, and then we do have an online tour also that Melissa did mention, and we will post that on our Facebook and on our website as well. So definitely take a look for that.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for joining us again. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. Stay safe.
Thank you.